joined now by the man who spent 6 years of his 11-year playing career in a Bills uniform, including most recently the 2019 and 2020 seasons. And he is the pride of Powell, Tennessee, and he has finally called it a career. And we first say congratulations to one Lee Smith on a career that lasts a lot longer than the NFL average. I don't have to tell Lee, it's only about 3.5 years for the average NFL career. He pretty much tripled that figure. So congrats on a long and distinguished career, Lee. How you doing?
Thanks, fellas. I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. So you've announced your retirement. You're a couple of weeks in. Has anything been different now already, or are you just kind of still healing up, kind of getting settled after a long, hard season?
Yeah, man. I've tried to lean on as many of my former guys that walked away as I possibly could, and just pick their brains and try to figure out, what landmines I needed to avoid as I transition out here. And I sure won't miss the off-season program. I promise you that. I don't think it'll hit me then, but I think once training camp starts and the season starts, that's going to be the biggest landmine. Right now, with the exception of really getting ramped up for some of these things that I'm starting off the field to help me with my transition, not much is different, this year than any other year of my career up to this point. But once training camp comes around for the first time in 12 years, and I'm not a part of it, I think that'll be the time that it really hits me, and I need to make sure I'm prepared.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like you've laid some of that groundwork already. You've got Triple F Elite Sports Training, firing up here in Nashville, right? So, I mean, that's just something that you're going to be able to pour everything into now going forward. So maybe just tell us a little bit about that and where things stand in terms of that, getting that up and off the ground.
Yeah, I'm over in Knoxville. Dawson's in Nashville. Dawson's got that Nashville money. I'm just an old Knoxville boy. But yeah, man. Kind of talked to Tasker and you guys last year, and I'll never forget. Steve said, "Play as many as you can, and then play one more." Well, I really do feel like this year was the one more. I just honestly don't think I can be the teammate and leader I've been, and man, and husband and father, and all those things if I go back at it. But yeah, man, Triple F, it's faith family football. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. I've always truly enjoyed mentoring these young cats and helping them kind of understand what it meant to be a pro. It'll be a much different mentor role now with 12 to 18-year-old young men and women. Just something that I couldn't be more excited about. I had a lot of adversity and stumbling blocks as a young man, a lot of it self-inflicted, most of it self-inflicted. And I just can't wait to be a huge resource for some of these youngins and just make sure they know that even when they get off the rails, there's still hope if they try to live on them more than they live off of them, and just try to make the world a better place here in my little local community. And as you guys know, I'm crazy as a road lizard. So, and that's a one-liner from Kyle Williams. I stole it. But man, I can't wait to let people know that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, but we're going to try to live right most of the time and do a lot of cool stuff, build a lot of good memories with these kiddos down here.
Well, you came into the league and you had this long career where you were kind of a nuts and bolts kind of player. And most of, particularly here in Buffalo, they didn't make any bones about it. You had a role, certainly in the offense, but you were here because you were a guy who mentored young players, guys like Dawson Knox, Tommy Sweeney, and you did the same thing with Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. And now you're going to do this with young kids as your thing. What is, say, give us one or two or a handful of the things you got to start with. What are the foundational things that you're going to talk to these young men about to further their career, not just on the field, but as men?
The first thing I want to do is build the coolest athletic environment for young kids in this area. I want it to feel like pro football, and I want it, only such a few number of us get to really see what pro football feels like, and that atmosphere and that brotherhood and the eliteness of it. And I want to have a place that everybody wants to be. And until I make that happen, I'm not going to be mentoring anybody. So once I can get all these young kids in the door and prove to the parents down here that I really am doing something different that's really special, it's going to be exactly that. Steve is, man, like, once again, I was a very self-destructive kid that decided to take the wrong fork more than the right fork, and I just want to be someone that is available to these kids when I can tell they're continuously taking the wrong fork. And just to say that, Jesus and strong men and this little, safe place of athletics can truly change your life if you just lean on the good men around you. And it's not just going to be me. I'm going to have a whole staff of great men that love God, love these kids, love sports, not only football, but all sports. But mostly, man, just because you get off the rails doesn't mean you got to live off of them all the time. You look at Feliciano, my goodness. But you don't have to live off the rails all the time, man. You can make mistakes and get right back on them. And it's such a different world than when you and Jim were running around. All it takes is one snapshot with a camera and somebody taking a video of you for these young kids to kind of be off the rails so bad that it's hard to recover. I'm sure glad there were no camera phones when I was coming up. So that's going to be my deal for all these kiddos.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a lot of your old teammates. We got one here who just wanted to pop in on a surprise hello. So, Scott, take it away.
Hey, buddy, how we doing? Congrats on an awesome career. I was happy to be able to spend some time with you there in Buffalo. They were great years.
Absolutely, buddy. I put Scott was on the group text of all the veterans. Hey, man, thanks for teaching me how to be a pro, showing me the ropes. I spent more time with Scott in my first 4 years than anybody else in the league. So a lot of it has to do with him. He's obviously at his swanky-ass place in Iowa. Look at that scenery.
It's short sleeve weather here. It's almost 50 degrees here today. This is beautiful. It's short sleeves. I'm getting a tan today.
I love it. No, I appreciate it, brother. It's good to see your face.
Yeah,
good to see you too, buddy.
So Scott Chandler joining us here, former Bills tight end as well. And I'm going to relay a funny story, at least the only one that I have, that involves both of these guys. So I'm watching practice. I think it's before the season, some training camp practice. And Lee's running a shorter pattern than Scott is in the passing game. I know that might be a shock to some people. And the Lee takes the check down and turns upfield to run up the sideline. And Scott, doing the right thing on the play, he's looking to block downfield on Lee's behalf. And so Scott's block takes him to the same sideline that Lee is running. And Lee nearly runs him over like a bulldozer. And so the play ends, and Scott looks back at Lee and says, "Why didn't you cut? Like, I'm blocking this guy out of bounds to the sideline. Why didn't you cut off my block?" And Lee simply looks at Scott and says, "I don't cut." You guys probably don't remember that, but
my favorite thing Lee set up was my favorite find that he set up in our room was if you have to have people come out on the field to help you get off, it was a fine. And Lee broke his leg, got up and hopped off the field. And then I tore my ACL and they had to come out to me, and sure enough, we got back there and I got fined. It doesn't matter if you tore your ACL at the end of the season. You're still getting fined if they have to come get you off the field. That's the kind of accountability we had in that tight end room,
Yeah, that's a tough crowd. That is a pretty tough crowd. And Lee, you've made the rounds around the league. You're in Buffalo, you were in Oakland, you were back in Buffalo, you're in Atlanta. You've crossed paths with a ton of players, coaches. What are some of the common denominators of, truly great players, truly great friendships, great atmospheres? If you were going to be a head coach and an owner or GM asked you what was the foundational thing that you were going to build your program on, what would it be?
Obviously you have to have great players in our line of work. It's a production-based business, right? 4 Super Bowls in a row for the Bills, had a lot of Hall of Famers, so it's no secret why y'all won a lot of games. But, it's easy to collect talent. It's hard to build a team, right? I know that the Bucks and Rams and some of these teams are proving that to maybe not be as true as I thought. But and NBA is sure proving it to not be as true as I thought. But at the end of the day, man, when I walk into a locker room as a freshly fired player from the New England Patriots, and I've never played it down in the league. I'm scared I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. And a guy like Scott Chandler welcomes me with open arms the minute I walk in the door, and his wife, Alyssa, becomes family with my wife. And nobody was ever happier for any of my success than Scott. And when you have a bunch of selfless players that understand that we can all get our money, we can all get our success, we can all get everything we dream of and still truly be accountable to each other and wish the best for each other and be happy for each other, that's when a team becomes really special. So my thing, if I was building a team, would be, and it's Arthur Smith's big thing down in Atlanta is no egos. I don't care if you're going to the Hall of Fame one day like Matt Ryan, or if you're the practice squad tight end. Egos are a cancer in the NFL, and when you have too many of them, it can become a problem. Don't get me wrong, one or two is fine. The rest of the Scott Chandlers and Lee Smiths, as they get older, can kind of keep the team together. But if you got an ego in every room on the team, as opposed to a veteran leader in every room in the team, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and Scott, how good did it feel for you to see Lee kind of pay it forward in much the same way that you did for him as a young player coming up? Because when he came here for his second stint, I mean, he had young guys like Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney in the room here, and he kind of did the same thing you did for him. How gratifying is it when you see a guy that, you mentored turns around and does the same thing?
Well, I think what my relationship with Lee taught me as much as I ever taught him. I promise you that. He's an old soul, and he was able to really teach me a lot of things about growing up in a different environment than I grew up in, and empathy towards people, and I really think that he taught me as much as I taught him, and I knew that he would go on and be a leader, just because by the time he was in his second and third year in Buffalo, he was already a leader. He's natural that way, and I'm really excited to see him go and impact a bunch of kids' lives in his community now, and he's just a great role model, a great guy for kids to look up to.
Yeah, and now real quick, because I know Scott was very well received as a legend of the game up here this season, Lee. I got to believe you're on a short list, and that might be one of the few times where you'll be allowed to be a crazy man again. Your wife will let you be a little bit of a crazy man if you can be legend of the game to get this crowd fired up for a home game sometime.
I tell you what, man, I went and watched my son's 8th grade basketball kind of championship game the other day, and I said on the interview a few weeks ago, watching that Bills Chiefs game, I finally realized why these fans are so crazy. It's just the helpless feeling of having no control. There's something invigorating about that, man. And my son's little buddy, who they're the point guard and the big man on the basketball team, he crossed the dude over and just hammered a 3-ball, and I haven't been that excited or that emotional in 15 years.
Yeah.
And playing in the AFC Championship game a couple years ago with the Bills, that was a awesome ride there, trying to get the Super Bowl, and we overachieved this year in Atlanta, in my opinion. It's crazy we won 7 games. It's just the leadership and a kind of a young team and Cap Hill and all that stuff. Just the group of men that we were able to bring together and have that cool bond down in Atlanta was a lot of fun with Arthur's leadership. But even through all those moments, that 14-year-old young kid hitting that 3 in a big game was just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable, the rush that went through my body, to be honest. When I was playing all these years, I just sat in the stands and didn't say a word. But I said, I'm going to embrace this non-player deal, and it's just the coolest thing ever. So I'll come up there. Maybe I'll bring some Tennessee moonshine with me one last time. We'll have Scott come up with me, and we'll have a good time.
Lee Smith, Scott Chandler, you guys are great. Thanks for coming on and giving us a minute of your time. It's great to see you guys. Hope we see you back in Buffalo in the near future.
Thanks, guys. Love you, bud.
Love you, bro. Tell us I said what's up.
All right, bye.
All right, man. See y'all. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, guys.
You got it. That's Lee Smith and Scott Chandler, a surprise guest joining us.